What's going on YouTube? This is Deke back with another Sorare video. Today we are on part 2, and this is for the Crown, Charlotte FC, in our MLS kickoff series. So before we get into this, tragic passing on Anton Walks, center back for Charlotte FC. He died in a boating accident in the off season. So it is very sad to say that he has passed, and you feel for the entire community, his family, everything like that. So we are going to get into this, and we're going to start with goalkeeper. And Kalina, as you can see here, is the starter normally, but he is injured. He had surgery on a back issue. He should be out for the opener. Based on everything I'm reading, he should be out. It's either going to be Cisniega or George Marks, but I'm leaning towards Cisniega as far as that goes. And with the rest of the squad here, so the players in red, those are your designated players. If you're new to the MLS, every team can have 3 designated players, and those are the big salary guys. It doesn't count towards the salary cap. So let's get into this. And like I said, Kalina is out, so I'm not going to go over him too much. Cisniega is probably the guy who is going to fill in. As you can see from his prices, he did have a spike here. He's 27 years old, and whenever he did play, he averaged 58, which pretty solid, obviously. His price kind of is decent for a guy that is going to fill in, but I do think it is Kalina's to win back if Cisniega fumbles the bag or anything like that. George Marks, the other guy, he is under 23 until 2024. He could win the job. The friendlies start the 27th. They canceled the first one. They play the LA Galaxy on the 27th. So we'll kind of see in friendlies who can win this job, but I do think it's Cisniega's to win. All right, let's go back out to the defensive corps here. Harrison Aful, Malanda, Carujo, and Nathan Byrne is going to be your back line, at least for now, as far as, you know, kind of looking at this. I think that is going to be what the back line looks like. So we'll start with a 36-year-old. He is kind of winding down his career. He's been around the MLS forever. You take a look at his prices, they are dirt cheap, and you take a look at his scores, you know, they're okay. He does have a couple upside games, but he is not one to buy for Sorare. He's too old, and he does not put up consistent performances. Next up, Adelson Malanda. He's 20 years old, and he does not have cards, but he could be very interesting if we take a look at his scores. He did join a little bit late, so we just kind of see kind of his scores. Look at this stretch here, 60, 68 with a decisive, and 62 in a 4-0 shutout of the Philadelphia Union, which is pretty wild. He is interesting. A couple games, you know, starting before that, came over from Rodez, and they didn't cover that, so all these scores, don't worry about those. It's just kind of looking at these. He will get cards whenever new cards are minted this year, and he's only 20 years old, so I think his price will be decent. As far as, you know, the other under 23s, he is very young, and he should be in a starting position as far as Charlotte goes. So definitely one that I'm watching, and from the back line, he's probably the one that I would own moving forward. Carujo, he had an injury, ligament rupture, and if we take a look at last season, he came back for, you know, a couple minutes, 31 minutes, he got hurt, 17 minutes, he was back out, but he was the starter. Take a look at this stretch here. He had a nice 100 there, 60, 63, 62, 77. He is capable of putting up those high scores. It is just, will he be fully healthy whenever he comes back? And I do see him fitting into the starting lineup and being fit. We will be watching the friendlies. Always look at friendlies, see who's playing, things like that, especially preseason ones. And I will be monitoring that situation. 26 years of age, and the price is decent. You take a look at his limit, it's only $4. So some of these guys are limited prices. You could definitely get if you're trying to build a new team just for the MLS. There's some guys that are only a couple bucks that won't kill you. And the right back, Nathan Byrne, also doesn't have cards. He is 30 years old. And if we take a look at his scores, if we load here, well, maybe we won't load. So his L5 is 41, you know, 41, 41, 44. He doesn't put up very high scores, and it's probably a guy you're not going to really worry about. Okay, here we go. As you can see here, like I just said. Next up, if we go back to our cheat sheet here, Ashley Westwood, he just came over, and he will be interesting in the middle of the pitch here. So, if we take a look at his price, it has skyrocketed as he was basically going for nothing. He has skyrocketed since moving to Charlotte. He didn't play. He was out of the lineup for Burnley the entire season after getting injured, and he didn't put up great scores, but it'll be interesting to see how he translates to MLS. He is 32. He did go on and say that Charlotte FC is ran like a Premier League squad, which, is he just saying that? Maybe. But yeah, interesting. He only has 71 limiteds. That's why the price spike was pretty crazy from basically being worth nothing. And you take a look at that floor, that's not what he goes for. Do not pay that for Ashley Westwood. But 0.06, if you're kind of looking here, you could wait and see to see how he performs in the lineup. But I do think he will be nice. And if his L15 is 0, especially for cap modes, that might be an interesting look for sure. Because if you just get a 0, that would be amazing. And then you can pretty much spend elsewhere. The other does not have cards. It is Santos, but he played for Charlotte Independence in the USL. And if we take a look here, he was part of the squad and started at right mid and got a 19.32 in his only start last year. He was on the bench a few times. Basically, I'm either going him or Benjamin Bender. I do think Bender, they want to win the job. You see his prices here. He is pretty cheap. He is under 23. It's kind of a toss-up for me. In my thinking, I think Bender should win the job, but I think Santos has some upside to win the job as well. You take a look at Bender last year. He wasn't great, especially Sorare-wise. He was pretty terrible unless he got, decisives. He had a couple assists. He scored a couple in a row there. But other than that, and some, success at the beginning of the year, other than that, he was very inconsistent, and he was moved to the bench at the end and kind of lost his starting position. So it will be interesting to see how he bounces back. He's still young, so he turns 22 in March. So he's the guy to watch. Will he bounce back? I know in my graphic here, I put Santos. He could easily fill into that position as well. It's just it's a toss-up. I'd say it's honestly 50-50 for me between the two. If you're a Charlotte FC fan, I know like Trippin' B is a huge super fan. You can let me know if I'm wrong on that. This is kind of me looking through news, things like that. So I could be wrong on some of these positions, but I try to do my best to put these together. Next up, we are going to get to some of the big hitters for Charlotte FC. So we're going to start out at left attacking mid and go with Kerwin Vargas. So he is an under 23 guy who doesn't have cards as well. If we take a look at him, he did break into the starting lineup. He was playing on that right side. He can play on the left side as well. And he played a little bit of striker. So he's kind of all over the place as far as starting last year. He didn't really have the scores, since coming into the starting lineup. He was part of the squad. They eased him in, but it does seem like he is a starter moving forward. I wouldn't probably own him as far as, your Charlotte attackers, because there is just a lot more upside elsewhere. Swiderski is the guy. If you take a look, he's the cam. He can also play striker, but I believe he'll move into that center attacking mid role. And he is a stud. So he is 26 years old. He was just featured in the Poland squad at the World Cup, and he is the guy. Okay, there was rumors of him going to Italy, abroad. So they're kind of have to, pump the brakes on him a little bit. But he has come out and said he wants to accomplish and win titles at Charlotte before moving on to the next stage. Will that matter? I do think he stays. In my honest opinion, him coming out with that, I think with some of the moves abroad, he was the starter in the Poland. He made the squad over some guys who moved abroad from the MLS. And I think he wants to accomplish something. I think after a big year this year, he will be gone. But for this season, I expect him to have a really solid squad year. And you take a look at his form. he had a really solid stretch here. If you just take a look on YouTube and take a look at his top 5 goals, he had some nice free kick goals. He had some outside the box rippers. He is very talented, and he will put up numbers. So as you can see here, started against Argentina in that match, played 45 minutes. But that is World Cup experience for a guy who will build off of that. If you take a look at his time, again, he scored against Wales here. But the time in Charlotte, he has some serious upside. So we see these high scores and these decisives that are going to happen. I do think the assist numbers are going to go up this year with the addition of our striker that we're going to talk about. And for him to be able to play that cam position, I think he's going to set up a lot of goals. Will that take away from his goal scoring ability? It might, but I still think he's going to ebb and flow with our striker and really be the focal point of this team. So if there's anyone to own from this team, in my opinion, it would be him or the striker that we're going to get to. Next guy here, if we go back, he is also a designated player. It is another Polish player, so we got a Polish connection here. It is Józwiak. I might have botched that, but that's what I'm going to go with. So if we take a look, he does not have cards. He did kind of break into, he can play on that left side. As you can see here, they can swap wings there a little bit, but I'm going to put him on the right side because he did kind of start there, and with injuries and people moving around, he did kind of swap over to the left attacking mid spot. He did have 2 decisives here, decisive here, but unless he gets a decisive, his AA doesn't really kind of bode well, especially he doesn't have cards right now. I wouldn't buy in, 24 years of age. He might be decently cheaper once his supply really releases, but a guy that I'm probably not going to buy for Charlotte FC, especially I'm an under 23 player. I'm just kind of suggesting players here. And then our last player here, and this is a huge signing for them. So Enzo Copetti, I think he is going to really boost the team. You see, he is a little bit more expensive than Swiderski, and I think if you combine the two into a lineup, that America lineup is going to be ridiculous because I think they're going to lend a hand to each of these, each other. So do I think the scores are going to be better this year than last year at Racing Club? Boy, that is like the question. Look at that graph. That is unbelievable. He was just a decisive machine last year. The MLS is a high-scoring league. They score goals. Could he repeat here? Racing Club, they were very good last year. He was the guy scoring the goals. It was kind of, they're scoring a lot of goals. He's scoring a lot of goals. They do well, as with most teams. But if you go all the way back, man, he's just bagging goal after goal after goal after goal. I really think Swiderski is going to set him up like crazy. While it's really hard and would be surprising to sustain this, I think he's going to have a really good season, and that Charlotte FC attack is going to be fun to watch. So just to recap, my 2 guys that I would kind of go with, it would be Swiderski at the central attacking mid position. They are both forward cards, which makes it a little bit trickier. Takes away from, stacking multiple midfielders. And then Copetti as well. Westwood would be one to watch. That could be a midfielder if you're going for a full stack. Then you could put the goalie and then maybe Adelson Malanda as the defender if you're going for a full stack. Hopefully you guys like this video. This is part 2. I'm going through every single team, and we'll pick up with the third team in the Eastern Conference after this. Thanks, guys.